Now that we've talked about horizontal lines, let's take a second and talk about vertical lines. So we're going to do the same thing by just starting off with an example. So let's suppose I want this vertical line. So this is our y-axis, that's our x-axis. I want this one right here, and I'll plop a bunch of points on there. So this point right here, that'd be at 2, 4. This one right here, 2, 1. This one down here would be at 2, -2. Okay, and again, just like before, let's start off with our slope. So the slope of this line, well, let's pretend I'm starting here and then I'm ending here. Change it up a little bit. So this time I'm going downward. Alrighty, so my delta y over delta x, once again, well, my delta y should be -3 because I'm going down. But the way I've written it, I'll do 1 minus 4, and then our change in x, well, I'm not going anywhere horizontally, I'm just going straight downward. So that'll be 2 minus 2. If I evaluate this is going to say -3 over 0. And we've seen stuff like this before. We would call this, at least the number anyway, undefined. And thus the slope would be undefined. Well, that's kind of weird. But you can see how no matter what, this is actually going to be the case. For a vertical line, your slope is always actually going to be undefined, and here's why. I guess you could also think of it as a quote-unquote infinite slope, excuse me. But here's kind of why that's going to be the case, is that we always have slope as rise over run as usual. And you're going to rise some amount. We started off right here, and we could have risen down here, which is what we did, or we could have gone down here if we wanted to. But no matter how far you rise, whether you're going upward or downward, how far are you running? You're actually not going to be running, again, horizontally, anywhere. You're starting off at x equals 2 and you're ending at x equals 2, no matter where you are, because this line, again, is straight up and down. So that means that your run is going to be 0, causing you to do a division problem that can't be done. You're rising some number and dividing by a run of 0. And so this is why vertical lines have undefined slopes. You can also think of it as, for any other line, so first off, a horizontal line has a slope of 0. 0 is different than undefined. Remember, 0 is an actual number. It represents a value. 0. 1 less than 1. Undefined is totally different, and that undefined is not even a number. Alrighty, so I just want to keep that clear. There is no number that will give you the answer, some number rise divided by 0. Okay, but think about this. The reason this is undefined could be thought of like this. If you have two lines, one's vertical, that's line number 1, and line number 2 here, which is pretty steep, but is not vertical. You could still have someone sit on here and slide down, or they could walk up it. They might need a little bit of assistance, but it's in theory possible. But if you have a person trying to climb up this one, they wouldn't be able to, because they can't put their feet down anywhere. No matter how steep this one is, even if it's something like that, you could, in theory, still put your feet down and then walk up. That can't happen on the vertical line, so that's kind of another reason that makes it different than other lines, and therefore it has no slope, has an undefined slope. Okay, so now that we talked about the slope being undefined, now we can talk about the actual equation of the line. This is kind of weird though, because we're so used to seeing our equation as y equals, again, the slope times x plus the starting value. But I can't really say that since the slope is undefined, I can't just say this. It's undefined times x plus the starting value. It doesn't really work that way, because I can't actually use this in any way because undefined is not a number. So this will not work. But again, think back to what we talked about in the previous video. Instead of restricting ourselves to, hey, it has to be this type of equation, this form of the equation, just think, what is the rule? What is the rule? Some people call it. Or some people say, or pattern. What do the points have in common? When we think back here, the thing that's common is their x values. Their y values are random. They can be whatever they want. But if we're going vertically, straight up and down, then their x coordinate doesn't change, and therefore it stays the same between all the points. And so the thing that's common here is that all points on this vertical line have an x coordinate of 2. And therefore the equation of the line is simply x equals 2. So we have here horizontal lines which have a slope of 0, and their equations are always of the form y equals some number. They all have the same y value. Come back to vertical lines. Vertical lines have an undefined slope. It's infinitely steep, you could say. Goes straight up and down. And has a line of, or sorry, it has an equation, x equals some number. Again, if you're starting on a line and you're going straight up and down vertically and not going anywhere horizontally, then all that stays the same is your x coordinate. And the y coordinate doesn't show up in this equation because you don't care what it is. The only thing that matters for you to be on this line is that your x coordinate is equal to 2. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully we can see how I can just get any equation for any line now, whether it's horizontal, vertical, or diagonal.